Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I want to talk to you about something that I would have liked to know when I came to Denmark, and that would be 10 things that foreigners need to know or need to get used to once they come to Denmark. As you probably know by now, my name is Maria and I've been living here since 2014, so I've had quite a few experiences, nice and not that nice of course, throughout these years. Anyhow, I've put together 10 of the things I had to get used to, and sometimes I'm still getting used to here in Denmark while living as a student and worker at the same time. The first and probably one of the most important and somehow dangerous are the bikes. And yeah, it might not sound very dangerous, but trust me, when there are more bikes than cars, the risk of getting, run over by a bicycle kinda grows as well. I've never got run over by a bicycle, funny enough, not here, but I did in Romania. But I had the experience of walking on the bike lane because I was not used to having bike lanes, and people coming rushing with their bikes, just honking at me and then probably just, swearing in Danish like, can you please get off the bike lane? And because I had no clue what was going on, it was my first time in Denmark. I was here as a visitor, let's say, as a tourist, and I was not paying attention to where I was walking. Of course, I was trying not to walk on the street, but I never looked if there was a bike lane or if it was just the pedestrian lane as per usual. With this in mind, just be very careful where you walk, because you will see in the morning and when people get off from school or from work, it's gonna be packed with bicycles. If you happen to be on a bike lane, you're either gonna get injured or sweared at by many people. So just be careful about this and remember that once you enter Denmark, you are in the bicycle country. They are everywhere. Trust me, you will see it when you get here, but they are really, literally everywhere and there are lots of them. So once again, be very careful with the bike lane and don't get in their way, because first they're gonna get offended, second they might hurt you, and third you're gonna end up feeling stupid anyway. The second thing here in Denmark that sort of not shocked me, impressed me, let's say, it was the personal space. People in Denmark really respect your privacy, your intimacy, your private space, even if we're talking about your space in a bus. If you're sitting, let's say, in one corner of the bus, if there is space everywhere else, they will go the furthest point available from you, because they don't like to bother, they don't like to get in your space, they don't like to breathe the same air you're breathing. Of course, if it's gonna be packed with people, if it's gonna be very busy in the bus, train, metro or so on, they will have to sit next to you. But if they can avoid it, they will certainly avoid it. And I have one more example in this category, because I've noticed something else as well regarding personal space. People here in Denmark don't really have curtains or fences. I would assume that this is because Danes don't like to look in each other's houses. And that's normal. That should be kind of a common sense. Why would you look in somebody else's house? Anyhow, back in my country, it's quite common to see people staring at your window. It's not necessarily because, they want to see something, but it's just something we do without even realizing, because it's part of our culture. I know it sounds weird. It's not that weird when you do it daily. But yes, it sounds weird when you're not used to it. That's why back home we used to have a fence. I think it was taller than 2 meters. I think it was probably 3 meters, and it was the same color, you couldn't see anything through it. So we were like in a fortress. Because in our case, we didn't like people to look inside, but you will see pretty much everybody has a big fence, or they have curtains, or they have God knows what else to, cover them from the outside world. But back to Denmark, they don't really have this, so don't try to look in somebody else's home, because they will get offended if they see you. I've tried to do it once, again, not consciously, it was just something I was used to doing, and I was walking with a Danish friend. And they scolded me, not in a bad way, but they just told me, like, a bit aggressively, like, why are you looking in that person's house? And I was like, yeah, I was just looking, they have nice whatever. It's like, don't do that. We don't do that here in Denmark. So yeah, keep that in mind. The third thing I've noticed also regarding their houses and homes and apartments is that they sometimes leave their shoes out. And I don't mean out of their room, I mean out of their house. If they live in an apartment, it's very common to see outside their door their shoes. And nobody's gonna steal them. Of course, if it happens, most likely it won't be another Danish person. But it is really something that kind of shocked me at the beginning, because I was really surprised that they trusted other people so much in order to leave their shoes outside. And don't get me wrong, they really wear expensive shoes. If it was me back in my country, I wouldn't even left my flip-flops outside my house because I wouldn't trust anyone not to steal them. But again, here in Denmark, Danish people don't really care about what you have, where you have it, because they have it as well. The fourth thing I've noticed here in Denmark, which is maybe not very different from my country, is that the water is drinkable. The tap water from the sink is drinkable. Therefore, you can save some money by not spending any of it on water from the shops, because again, you can drink it from the tap. It's not the same as the bottled water, but it doesn't taste funny, it doesn't have a funny color, and most likely your stomach is not going to suffer from it, which I can't really say from the Romanian perspective. Because if you go back home, unless you're in the mountains, and I'm gonna emphasize on this, unless you're in the mountains, you can't really drink the tap water because you're gonna get a stomachache or even worse, but let's not talk about that. But coming back to Denmark, here you can drink it, it's safe, it doesn't taste in any funny way, it doesn't give you stomachaches, so you're good to go. The fifth thing is the language. You would be surprised, but in Denmark, almost everybody, and when I say almost, I mean maybe more than 95% of the people speak good English, which means you don't really need Danish to get along. Of course, some people won't speak English to you. Some people will simply refuse to speak English to you even though they can do it easily. That's mostly because it's a national thing, but let's not talk about those because most of them are very willing to talk English to you. They're actually fascinated about you, about your language, your country. Again, most of them. There are always exceptions, but the thing is that you can get along with English. It's nice to go to a shop and speak English, cinema, I don't know, anywhere you go you can speak English. If you need to ask the bus driver a question, you can do it in English. There will be, again, cases and exceptions when people don't speak really good English, but again, they will try. It's not like if you speak English to them, they will get offended, like I heard they do in some other parts in Europe. And since we're talking about language, sometimes you will see Danish people starting conversations with you. Totally random. It could be on the street, in the bus, in the metro, at the workplace, and they will start speaking Danish to you, kind of assuming you speak Danish too. And sometimes, I would just smile and nod and hope they stop and let me be. But since I've been learning some Danish and now I can sort of communicate myself, I try to tell them from the beginning I don't speak very good Danish or I don't speak Danish at all, so if we could please switch to English. Some of them will simply stop talking to you and go along, but some of them will be nice and they will say, oh, okay, no problem. But keep that in mind, because people like to have conversation, but not the small talk. Danish are not really into small talk. I noticed that. Maybe not everybody else does it, but I noticed they don't like small talk. They either talk to you like a normal conversation or they don't do it at all. And of course, we have to speak about the sixth thing, about the weather. I've spoke about this before in one of my Romanian vlogs about things in Denmark that you need to know before you come here, but there are months in the year where the Danish weather is simply unbearable. Everything is grey, is windy, is cold, and it just feels like depression. And from what I understood, this is one of the reasons that people in Denmark get easily depressed in the autumn and winter. Because as I said, it could be months without sun. It could be months without any color on the sky. And because the sky is grey, sort of the nature is grey as well, the people are grey as well. And trust me, you will start feeling grey quite soon. Coming from a country which is very sunny most of the time, of course we have winter, we have wind, we have rain, but it's not very common to have weeks in a row of the same kind of weather. If it's sunny today, it will probably be sunny in a few days again. But if it's windy here and grey, it could be for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month, and then you will start feeling weird. It's something you get used to. Now I'm not that affected, but of course when this kind of weather starts, I kind of get a headache and I don't really feel myself. But again, with time you get used to it and it's not such a big problem, especially if you are an indoor person like I am. The seventh thing is something I've experienced myself in quite a harsh way. Danish people don't like to brag and they don't like to hear you bragging. Be very careful with this one, because coming from a country where you bond with people by either complaining or bragging, I did it, again, not in a conscious way, with a Danish person. And they got very offended, and they told me that they don't want to be near me again because I don't send them the good vibe. And then I realized I changed the country, maybe I should change a bit as well in order to fit. So be very careful with this, don't try to brag or complain or just simply being a negative person, because you will drive most of the Danish people away from you and you will find yourself lonely and feeling like an outsider. So try not to do that. The eighth, which is probably one of the most painful one for me as a Romanian, is the lack of pastry, bakeries, cakes and stuff like we have back home. We have super good food. Let's leave that aside. We also have amazingly tasty pastries and cakes and tarts and biscuits and whatever you want it, we have it. But here in Denmark, the variety is not that wide and you can't really choose that many things, and most of them contain marzipan or licorice, so you are kind of limited when it comes to buying some pastry or cakes in general. Most of them are either very sweet or they don't taste like anything. So again, coming from a country which has great pastries and cakes in general, it's kind of sad not having the possibility to get any of those here. But again, this is something you get used to, and at some point, if you really miss it, go ahead and bake it yourself. The ninth thing I've noticed here is recycling. It's part of their culture. They recycle bottles, cans, paper, whatever they have, they kind of recycle, if it's possible, of course. It's something we were not doing when I was still back home back in 2014, but from what I heard, they started doing it at home as well, so maybe soon we will have it as well back in Romania. But anyhow, when I got here, it was not something I was used to. Suddenly I had to recycle. I didn't know why, how or when or what exactly I can recycle. With time, of course, I understood. But let me give you an example. If you're the kind of person like me who buys water from the shop because you like sparkling water, who buys beer once in a while, who buys some sodas, if you keep all these bottles and you collect them, at the end of the month, you can have maybe a sum around 100-150 crowns as a single person that you can get from recycling. If you go with your bottles to any supermarket in Denmark, or at least most of them, they will have a recycling area where you simply put the bottles in and you have the option to donate all the money from the recycled bottles, or you can take it out yourself, pay in the shop and do groceries for a week. Why not? It can really save you in one of those tough months when money is simply not enough. So keep that in mind and of course make the world a better place, as Michael Jackson used to say. And the 10th one, which honestly can be both shocking and interesting at the same time, is about alcohol and sexuality in Denmark. These two topics are very well known and common and, normal. Let's say just normal. You will see teenagers, and by teenagers I mean 15, 14-year-olds, going to a park on a Sunday or, any sunny day after all, with a 6-pack or even a 12-pack or even a 24th pack of canned beer and enjoying themselves in the park. You will see them dressing very funny sometimes, because for them sexuality is a good thing, is not something seen as bad. They don't feel embarrassed to express their sexuality. And for us, at least for me as a foreigner coming from Romania, where if you try to embrace your sexuality, old people will pass you on the street and they will start praying for you because they think you're possessed or something. I'm joking, they're not that bad. But the point is that back in my home country, you can't really express your sexuality without being called names. But here in Denmark, it's very common, it's very understood by everybody, probably not so much from the foreigners' points of view, but it's again something you get used to. It took me some time to actually, get in that kind of a wave, get in this flow of them, because for them it's very natural to just go out and get drunk, but completely drunk. And they like to talk about it. We did it as well as teenagers back home, but it was not something you could talk about so easily. So here, if you hear people getting drunk and, having sexual relationships, let's call them, in a club, it's gonna be something very, very common. But if you hear this back home, they will be criticized to death. So anyhow, this is my top 10. I would have a few more to include, to be honest, but I don't want to make this video completely crazy long. So let's keep it like this. Maybe I will come up with 5, 7, 10 more and make another video sometime soon. But for now, this is what I came up with. I hope it helps you and I hope it kind of gives you an idea of what Denmark is and how you have to kind of change in order to fit in. Otherwise, if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments. I will gladly answer them whenever I get the time and whenever I see them, of course. So I guess that would be all for me today. If you are still here at the end of this video and you haven't subscribed yet, it would do me a great pleasure to have you along on my little YouTube family. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share it, of course, if you feel like it, and I will see you very, very soon. Until then, have a nice week, have a nice day, and take care of you. Bye bye.